Hey guys, JK here to talk about a couple of character enhancements that are coming our way, and just comparing Luneth and Knight Cecil because they play the same role pretty much, like as a finisher. And for people lucky enough to have both of them, the problem is that we don't have enough mats, or most people don't have enough mats to awaken or enhance both of them immediately. So this video is going to kind of compare, which one might be the better bang for the buck. So let's start with Luneth. These are both base 5 stars, if you didn't know that already. One thing that's working in favor of Luneth, at least for me, is the fact that he has an innate dual wield. And I'm actually running out of dual wield TMRs because I have a separate arena squad that's looking more and more different than my main squad nowadays. Like, I have 2 Noctises on my arena squad that have dual wield, but I don't have them on my main squad anymore. So that's like 2 TMRs that are kind of used on them that I can't use on my main. So having Luneth, who can already, innately dual wield, is a big plus for him, I think. He also has like all the good weapon selections, I think, for now. Daggers are pretty good, but he has swords, which can enable him to do Dark Knight. I can never remember it. The one that gives 50% boost with the sword and heavy armor. Great sword, obviously. Large sword mastery is very, very, very good. And this is like a lot of the best weapons in the game are like Excalibur, Deathbringer, those kinds of things are great swords. And then Katana is good because of the blade mastery. And we have some good katanas in the game as well. So weapon selection is pretty good for him. As far as enhancements that he's getting, advance is okay. Basically, it wasn't very turn efficient before. First of all, it was it goes all the way up to a 100% attack buff. Before it was 60%, I believe, but they added a single target physical attack to it, 200%, which isn't that great, but kind of makes it so that at least he's dealing some damage and not wasting a whole turn buffing himself, just marginally better than most support buffs. But he can do some damage while he's doing that. And then of course the second level bumps it all the way up to 100%. The defense debuff is still the same, but the 100% one is only a self 2-turn buff. So that's a little bit of a downer for me because he's gonna have to kind of recast this if you're relying on this at all. So this isn't very good for me. I don't think I'm gonna enhance this at all, I don't think. Now Spearhead, I do believe it's called Cut Through in global. This is his main attack move / finisher move. So this is what we're mostly concerned with. So it's going to cost 12 tier 4 materials, which are giant crysts, and then 4 pure crysts. I think most of the time pure crysts are not really the big problem. I think the giant crysts are because of the quantities that you need. And I actually need to check how many I have of these, but I think I'm in pretty decent shape because of all the ones that they've been giving out lately. But it goes from a 250 single target 1 hit and ignore 25% defense to a 50. Let's just bust out the calculator real quick. If I can even find it on here. Here we go. Okay, so before 250 divided by 0.75, the multiplier was effectively 3.33. But with this one, it goes all the way up to a 5. So that's already a huge buff, even at level 1. 3.33 to 5. It's like essentially 50% stronger than it was before. But at the +2 level, I don't know what this stuff means. Like, if what? What is this? Let me try to translate, actually. Can I translate? Okay, I can't find it right now. The browser's wigging out on me. But basically, it has a chance or whatever of being a really good multiplier here. But for the most part, I think that it's going to be essentially a 7x, which is, again, a huge, huge improvement over the original stock 3.33. So it's more than twice as strong as it used to be. So this is a really good finishing move. This is going to make him a powerhouse for like a long time, actually. Now, Teachings of the Sword, this is his passive. It goes from 20%, I think, when equipped with the sword, all the way up to 50%. And then it also adds on this other stuff. So you're going to want to equip him with a sword on one hand, and then you're going to want to equip one of these other types of weapons, most likely a greatsword or a katana. So you're getting a lot more passive attack. This is also a great upgrade, and it's actually not that expensive. 8 tier 3 materials and 1 tier 4. Definitely a must-have for him. So with this passive and the awesome finishing move here, he turns into a monster. Definitely going to be, you know, very future-proof, at least for a few months. And even when he drops off, he's still highly rated. He's still respectable. So that's Luneth. Seems like pretty much a no-brainer, you know, from the way I'm describing him. But Dark Knight Cecil actually has more potential and has a higher modifier, you know, all things considered. So if you look at his enhancements, he gets a better, I don't know if he even had this passive before. Like, I'm looking here at his other stuff. Absolute Dark gives him 40% attack plus Dark Resist, plus he's basically gonna auto regen his health back to full each turn. Now, I don't know if this takes place in the beginning of a turn. For some reason, it doesn't really occur to me right now. But, you know, this helps obviously with him because he does a lot of self, you know, inflicting damage because he sacrifices his health to do more damage. So this is obviously going to be very good for him. Plus the 40% attack is a really big boon. Now, Soul Eater is his main finishing move here. What's very significant about this is that previously, if you dual wielded, each hit did 49% damage to himself, but now it does 60%. So if you dual wield and you do this twice, he's basically killing himself every time he does this move. Now, the way to get around that is you can actually time like a Kiraja or a heal spell of any kind in between his 2 hits, so that, you know, after he does 60% HP loss, you would heal him and then he could do the second attack and basically survive. But to be honest, I don't want to deal with all that. It seems like a real big pain. But look at the damage potential here. Not only is the multiplier better than Luneth's, this is a 7.5 multiplier, but it also comes with a 3-turn 100% Dark Resist debuff in peril, basically. So effectively, I mean, this is like, what, a 15x multiplier if you are in the right circumstances. Crazy, crazy damage. But yeah, I just don't know if I want to deal with that, timing the cure every time. Now, again, another way to get around it is to, instead of doing dual wield, you can do double hand. But then you're kind of effectively losing some damage because double hand in global is really not as good as it was in Japan. In Japan, you could stack a bunch of double hands and you get all that 50% each materia, but in global, you can only use one materia-wise, and then you'd be stuck filling out the rest of his slots with stuff like double hand, whatever kind of weapon he's equipping, most likely like a Deathbringer, Greatsword, so large sword mastery, that'd be the second slot, and then maybe a couple of 30% slots for the other ones. So it's not going to be as good as like 50, 50, 50, 50, like a 200%. Instead of that, it'd be 160. So still a lot of potential with double hand and global, but it's not as good as it was in Japan. So you need to keep that in mind when you're looking at Japan ratings and the meta there. But I don't know, it's a steep price to pay. And the whole like timing the cure in between doesn't appeal to me at all. Just seems like, I don't know. I mean, the game's supposed to be fun. And while it would be fun to see just gigantic numbers, I don't want to deal with that. So I would probably do double hand if I went with Dark Knight Cecil. And then he has Dark Cannon, which is the AoE version. It also does a debuff, but not as strong. And he loses less HP, so he's not killing himself. I mean, if you wanted to, you could actually even rely on this as a kind of finisher with the dual wield. It would, you know, with the imperil and everything, it's should in theory be stronger than, you know, a lot of the other abilities that chainers have, like Orlando's Divine Ruination. But again, you're losing HP, and then, you know, you have to deal with also the fact that he's locked into these elements. Not every boss is going to be, you know, vulnerable or even neutral to dark elements. Some of them are going to be very resistant to it. So that's another thing to consider. He's not as flexible as Luneth, who's, you know, element neutral, but he does have massive potential, as you can see. So those are comparisons between the two big finishers coming up. I'm actually pretty satisfied with, you know, Furion with Finbriar and his enhancements, and with the killer effects, which is like half the enemies in the game. He's still a powerhouse finisher, but in the cases where those killer effects don't really play into the boss or, you know, the type of enemy that you're fighting, I think somebody like Luneth is going to be a better finisher for you. And he comes with the benefit of innate dual wield and, you know, just better stats all around. So I'm probably going to go with Luneth. I mean, what is it? Spearhead, aka Cut Through? It seems really good. The multiplier goes up a lot, and you know, he has all these passes working in his favor. I would imagine that his attack can actually go definitely higher than Dark Knight Cecil can, fully geared up. So that's another thing in his favor. Of course, Dark Knight Cecil has better damage potential, but there's like a lot of downsides to that, and you know, you don't want to like really cater to one character so much, especially in a tough trial boss fight. And dealing damage is sometimes secondary when you're trying to keep everybody alive and get back on your feet. So yeah, it just seems like Luneth is a lower maintenance kind of character for sure. And he's also resistant to, you know, he has his innate advantages that he's always had. Like he's always going to be resistant to blind, paralyzed, confused, petrified, and all that stuff. Auto refresh. He has other innate advantages as well, so I'll probably go with Luneth. But let me know your thoughts, because Dark Knight Cecil is certainly very appealing and could be a ton of fun too. Like just dealing with that kind of stuff, and I've dealt with those kind of like suicide squads before in other games. It is fun because of the massive damage potential, but in this game, with the difficulty ramping up a lot, I know the next trial boss is supposed to be like nearly impossible at this point of the game. I think I'm gonna have to go with the safer route. So anyway, let me know your thoughts, what you're gonna go for. I guess the other thing to consider is that, you know, the material costs and stuff like that. I think this one is actually the same as Luneth's Spearhead. Yeah, it's the same number of mats, I think, for power. But then you'd also want to get this passive here. For Dark Knight Cecil, you can probably get away with, well, no, you'd want to get this support one as well. So this would also eat into your Ramza support materials if you're saving up for that. Another thing to consider. So anyway, I'm just rambling now, and I just wanted to get that out there and see what your thoughts were. Maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. So yeah, looking forward to it, and can't wait to use it. See you guys next time.